On that note, I think we better start the meeting before our senior officers come to blows and hurl any more insults at each other. Right, okay, so the Cabinet meeting, you've got the agenda in front of you. Have we got any apologies for absence?
Apologies received from Councillor Akhtar, Chair.
Very good. Have we got any? We have got no urgent business. Declarations of interest. If anybody has any interest in matters on the agenda, can you please declare and sign the appropriate form? Public question time. We've not received any public questions, so that takes us to the minutes of the Cabinet meeting held on the 23rd of October 2017. Those minutes are before you. Are they agreed as a correct record? Thank you very much. Okay, so item 6 is the Greater Manchester Strategy. Hard copies have been provided elsewhere. Has anybody got any questions or comments on the Greater Manchester Strategy?
It's only a comment. It's just, there's a heck of a lot of priorities there, isn't there? Which is that everybody skipping into the sunset, holding hands and being very wealthy, healthy and wise. And whilst you can't quarrel with any of those, I wonder if we're not spreading ourselves a bit thinly, really. That's all, as usual.
I'll take that comment on board, and when I get the opportunity to share it with colleagues, I shall do that. I think you're probably right. I think probably some of those things are more of a priority than others, and we may need to prioritise within our priorities.
Well, I think if I might add as well, some of those could well be in other strategies like the GMSF, for example. And it might be better. And I just worry that some of these strategies are being produced independently, don't necessarily meld together as well as they might do. But certainly some of those, you know, about green city regions and strong communities, a lot of those would be very much taken up by the GMSF as well, I would think. So just want to be certain that they cross-reference to each other as much as anything.
That's a fair comment, and I will take that back with me. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is item 7, which is the closure of the Section 48 AGMA grant scheme. And before I hand over to Barbara, that doesn't mean that there aren't going to be grants in the future. It just means that there'll now be Greater Manchester Combined Authority grants rather than AGMA grants. But perhaps Barbara would like to say a bit more about that.
Well, I think, to be honest, it's as simple as that. So these, I think, are something we've had for a long time. This is particularly relating to cultural programmes, but my understanding is they are going to be replaced by an alternative method of funding, so that we bid into in the same way that we do now. The criteria perhaps be made a bit clearer, the bidding process has been made a bit clearer, evaluation process has been made a bit clearer, so we shouldn't be any worse off, and hopefully we would be better off, I think. I think, I may be wrong, is this the scheme under which we get money for the Coliseum? So I think that would be my only point to bear in mind, that we want to be certain that the Coliseum doesn't end up disadvantaged under this new system. But there's nothing in the format to suggest that's going to happen.
Thank you. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is also in your portfolio, Barbara. It's the green dividend, item 8.
Yeah, again, I think the important thing about this is that we found the funding for it, so provided everybody agrees it's a good thing, and I would be very bitterly disappointed if anybody argued that it wasn't a good thing. I think we've already had to lose some of our green ambassadors because of the uncertainty about whether we were going to continue. We've managed to extend the contract to the one we had left, so to bring in that continuity. We have a number of schemes waiting in the wings to bid into this pot if we agree to recreate it, and I think we all agree that this has achieved some fantastic community initiatives across the borough, obviously, which have contributed to our success in Britain in Bloom, but you know, perhaps more importantly, have resulted in good community cohesion and some really good generational, gosh, that was hard, activity and end of social isolation, obviously public health benefits. There's a lot of knock-on benefits from this, so I would certainly, and I say, as we've actually managed to find the funding for it too, so that's a benefit. Yes. I hope we all will agree that we should go on for 2 more years. I
certainly agree with that. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Okay, so item 9 is carriageway improvement programme. Frida, that's yours.
It is, Chair, thank you very much. I've got nothing further to add other than the report I've written, and welcome this 6.2 million over 18 million over 3 years, and 6.2 for this forthcoming year, 18-19. So I ask the Cabinet to agree. Thank you.
I know this is obviously an investment in our highways that we clearly need to do. And the first tranche is, as you say, the 6.2 million. Is Cabinet agreed? Agreed. Amanda?
I've just got a comment on this report. Obviously welcome the investment and the updating of our highways, but before it's done, can we ensure that ward members are notified of what's going on in their wards? Because we've got into a process at the moment where, and I think we've all had it, where it's great, the roads are being resurfaced, but we know nothing about it. But I'd like to be able to tell people the wonderful work that Oldham Council is doing. So can I request that over the next 2 years, please? Thank you.
Okay.
Can I just add to that, Jean, because it happened in my ward and they were using a different way of doing it, which the residents didn't understand was a technique. I'm on about the technical side of it, which residents didn't like. They came to me and I said, there's no way I can explain this to you because it's a technicality. I will get highways to speak to you directly, which they didn't do. So I think we need to, because you tend to think when you talk about resurfacing roads that you know what that actually means, and it doesn't necessarily mean what you think it means in terms of the actual way they do it. So I think Amanda's point's really valuable, that they could also tell us if it's going to be a more unconventional way of doing it, just so that we're prepared when people ask us if you can't answer. Because one is they do it and it gets better as it's driven over. This was the point, so it's not all finished all smoothly. They leave it and then the actual passage of traffic actually sort of beds it in somehow. So of course all the residents thought it wasn't finished because it didn't look like it was. So it's just a bit more background information if it's not sort of a more conventional approach that we would expect to see, I think.
We can arrange that. Okay, thank you. Item 10 is the council tax reduction scheme. Abdul.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So this scheme sets out, that wasn't planned, this scheme sets out our policy for next year. So essentially it's the support that we give to people who are on low income. And you'll recall from April 2013 we've been responsible for a local scheme. The main point of the report, Chair, is that we're proposing to carry on the same scheme that we've got over to the next financial year, which is a discount of 85% at Band A. I'm happy to take any questions from colleagues.
Questions or comments? Is that agreed? Thank you. Item 11 is the Treasury Management Half-Year Review. Again, that's you, Abdul.
Yep, thank you, Chair, again. So this report is a statutory report. We have to bring it to Cabinet and also take it to full council for approval. So it details the way we manage our Treasury function within the council. I'm pleased to tell you that everything is done accordingly. There's no issues in terms of the way we manage our finances. There's one point that I would like to draw your attention to, which is page 77, item 2.101. So basically, CITFA, which is the Public Finance and Accountancy body, looking at revising the Code of Practice for Treasury Management, and this is around the borrowing that the council has been undertaking to buy properties, commercial properties, and there might be something on that in the Chancellor's budget on Wednesday. If that happens, then we might be looking at a new code for the new financial year starting in April 18. Obviously we don't know what that might be, but I can assure you whatever it is we'll do our very best to comply with it. Again, Chair, I'm happy to take any questions members may have.
Any questions or comments? Is that agreed? Thank you. The next item is strategic investment, which again is Abdul, but there's also a paper on this in the closed part of the agenda. So I'll seek questions or comments at that point. comments from Abdul. Do you have anything to say in this part of the agenda on this
No, except
paper?
just to say, Chair, right, that clearly we as a stakeholder in Manchester Airport Group, they're looking for loan facilities and from the 10 Greater Manchester authorities, and we're happy to support that. We're happy to give them a loan, and the detail of that is obviously covered in the closed papers, as you just said.
Okay, is that agreed? Okay, item 13 is also covered in the closed part of the agenda. This is yours, Frida. Is there anything you'd like to say on this part of the agenda, on this report? Should we leave comments to...
I don't have anything.
Okay.
Do I defer to the Chair?
We'll do that on the closed part of the agenda then. And then the next item, item 14, is mine. Disposal of land at the former Byron Street School and Police Station in Royton, and I'll pick up any comments on the closed part of the agenda. So at this point we're up to item 15, which is the exclusion of the press and public. Thank you.